the most net profit that I've pretty much done was 101,000. I had only learned 5 months prior on how to tint, right? And pretty much, yeah, I started with 12,000 and 3,000 left over, hoping that, I was like, I just want to break even.
Sales.
There's shops that will hand cut and they'll mess up your trim. They'll cut your rubber seals around the windows.
What are some tips that you could give for someone that's looking into a tint shop, tinting their own vehicle? What are some things they should look out for before selecting a tint shop to go with their tint? Hey, so what's your name and tell us about what you do for work?
So guys, my name is Jason Diaz.
This is Jason Diaz, the owner CEO of OC Tint Solutions in Anaheim, California. You've all heard me talk a lot about OC Tint Solutions because Jason has tinted my past 3 to 4 Teslas, including the Tesla Cybertruck. And OC Tint Solutions is one of the best in the area, and I will never bring any of my Teslas or any other vehicles to any other shop to get tinted. I sat down with Jason to talk about his business, how he grew it in 4 years to almost $1 million, how his sales have been affected during certain time frames, and how much it costs to run a tint shop in California with all the different challenges in running a business. Hope you enjoyed this interview, and check out Jason's channel if you want to see more interviews with like-minded business associates to get a deeper insight into businesses all around. Let's get into it.
I own a window tint shop, and that's kind of how I met Dennis here. I've tinted pretty much all of his Teslas and all your vehicles that you've had. But yeah, I own a tint shop in Orange County. We're located in Anaheim, and we're the #1 rated tint shop on Yelp. We don't have a single negative review, which I think is like something I'm very proud of, because I do believe that if you give your clients value and you try to work things out with every single customer, I think your business is pretty much set up to thrive for the long run. But yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
Love it. So I want to get into the nitty gritty. Like, what's the most you've made in 1 month owning a tint shop?
As a tint shop owner, so I think last year, so back in 2023, the most net profit that I've pretty much done was 101,000.
That's insane. And how many employees do you have?
Right now we have a team of 7 employees. At that time though, when I did 101, it was, let me see. So 1, 2, 4 installers, 1 manager, and myself. That was 6 of us.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it's been, that month was insane. And, previous to that month, we had done 90,000 in profit. And then previous to that one, we had done about like 85. So it was kind of like, it was just broke one record, broke the next. And then really, it was like shattered the record. So, but yeah, that's kind of like some of the insight in there.
And so how long have you been doing tint, and what made you get into opening a shop?
So I've been doing tint for 5 years now. So I opened the shop back in 2019, and I learned how to tint in late 2018. It was like towards November area. I pretty much took like a 5-day course, a workshop. And
how much did that course cost?
The course was $1,200.
Okay.
So it was $1,200 for 5 days, and it was in San Diego. So back then I didn't really have a lot of money, so I was kind of like, I had to drive. A lot of people that actually went to the course, they flew in, or they were driving from like NorCal or even like SoCal area, like down here, and they would find like a hotel to stay, but I didn't have any money for that. So I was just like, I'm just trying to keep it at 1,200 to invest in this. And I would just drive every morning, 5 a.m. to El Cajon, where I took my course.
That's nuts. And when you open your shop, like, how much money did you need to like open it? Or did you have investors to kind of help you with it? Or did you kind of just front the money yourself? And how much deposit or anything to open a shop?
So pretty much when I opened, I kind of like was delusional. I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill it, I'm gonna make it, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to be delusional to do stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much I had only learned 5 months prior on how to tint, right? And when I opened the shop, I had saved up. At that time I was 24 years old, so I had saved up, I think at that time I had $12,000 saved up.
Okay.
And so I pretty much started with $12,000, and I kind of just broke it down. I was like, okay, I need to get someone that actually knows what they're doing, because I had only tinted maybe like 5 cars. So
okay.
I knew I cannot trust myself if I want to build something good. So I allocated like $4,000 for 1 installer. I put a deposit down on my rent and like my lease. It was like $2,000 there. And so that pretty much took away a whole chunk that was $6,000, like right out the door that I had to allocate. So I'm left with another 6,000, and I used another 3,000 for material cost.
Okay.
And a couple tools and stuff like that. So, you know, it was 9,000, and then pretty much, yeah, I was left with $3,000, and I had my own apartment that I had to take care of. So pretty much, yeah, I started with 12,000 and 3,000 left over, hoping that, you know, I was like, I just want to break even.
Sales.
Yeah, I was like, just hoping I could tint, you know, in my head, I was like, okay, how many cars do I have to tint to break even? And I think that was it wasn't about making the money. It was just about surviving. Like, I just wanted to survive.
But how do you get a rental property, like, or like a warehouse space? Like, was it hard convincing the people to rent it out to you, or like you just?
So you know, so what happened was, and we go back to, like, I'm a big believer in creating your own opportunities, right? So in my mind, for the 5 months since I took that course, in my head, I kind of had the seed that I had planted of, I want to open up my own shop. So long story short, what happened was I had a dealership that kind of reached out to me because I used to do car detailing at that time.
Right.
And I was supposed to do business with this person. And he said, hey, come to my dealership and come talk to me because I want to set a deal so that you can do all of our inventory, all of our car detailing. And when I showed up, I noticed he had this like garage storage area that he wasn't using. It was like he had a bunch of junk in there, and it measured maybe about I want to say it was maybe like 500 square feet. And right away I was like, you know what, like, in my head I just needed a garage space that wasn't, you know, because that wasn't too big and too small, but just enough to fit a car with the doors open, and maybe like an area to like showcase the tints. So that day I noticed his setup there, I asked him, I was like, hey, like, I know we're here to talk about detail, but would you be interested in like renting this out? Right. And in my head I was like, oh dude, like, you know, he's not getting any money off of this, and I know he has a large property, so he could probably use some help. And I kind of knew, because he was talking to me, and I kind of knew he wasn't doing so well. So I figured like, hey, maybe I can help him and he can help me. Right. So I pretty much just offered it to him. I told him, hey, like, would you be open to lease this area to me?
It's pretty cool, actually.
And he said, he's like, well, what would you want? What could you possibly want to do here? Like, this is just, you know, this is small. It's a storage. Like, and I told him, I want to open up a tint shop. And he's like, you know, like, it's not going to work. Like, it's, you know, it's too small or whatever. And I just told him, no, man, like, I'm like, I'll give you $500 for it. Yeah. And he's like, oh, like, Lon, I got to think about it. Like, let me think about it first, and then I'll get back to you. And I was just so confident, delusional. I mean, I had no business, like, even offering, dude. Like, I had no plan. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I had sat down and created this strategic plan on, hey, this is how I'm going to get customers. This is how I'm going to do the install. I have an installer ready. Like, I had no plans. I was just kind of like throwing myself into it for no reason.
Hoping
like
for the best.
Yeah, just like, oh, I'll work, you know, first I get the spot and then I'll figure out the rest. Right. So, you know, and he said, like, you know, give me $1,000 and it's yours. And I was like, no, you know, I'm trying to like mitigate my risk, right? Because I know that I don't have so much money, and I have, you know, my own livelihood, right, to spend on, and I don't have any other check to kind of, you know, go piggyback off of. So we met at $1,000 and all utilities included. So that means I could use all the electricity I wanted, and, you know, I can open at any time of the day that I wanted, and I'd be able, as long as I was paying the $1,000 a month, I was able to, you know, work out of there. And that's kind of how it started, man. And he never asked me, like, show me your finances, show me anything, like. And in my head, it was just kind of like, oh, okay. I'm like, $1,000. I was like, all right, man. Like, you know, you got a deal, and I'll make sure and write up the lease and I'll sign it. Yeah. Never once asked me to see how much money I was making. Never asked me to check my bank account. Never once asked, like, nothing. He didn't ask me anything. And I think it's because he also trusted that, you know, like,
worst case, like, he's not making anything scenario, anyways.
Yeah, he wasn't getting anything. But yeah, man, he just pretty much mocked up like a, honestly, like, ChatGPT could come up with a better freaking lease agreement than the one that he made. You know, it was just kind of like, on paper, you agree to pay this and this with utilities included, and the lease was for a year. Yeah. So in my head, I was just kind of like, okay, worst case scenario, I lose $12,000. Right. And that's it.
I mean, that's pretty awesome, actually. And it's interesting to see that that's how it kind of got started. You saw an opportunity where someone wasn't necessarily monetizing a space and you thought for them and for yourself and to try to create something from that. And I think that's kind of copy pasted a lot with how you do business today. Like, to give the viewers some background, like Jason has tinted all of my Tesla vehicles, and I keep going back to him because of the quality work and how much you take care of the customer. And if you don't believe me or Jason, just like take a look at your Yelp reviews, like 5 out of 5 stars out of like 700 reviews. Like,
yeah, we're like at 7. We're almost at 800 right now.
Yeah, it doesn't exist at all. But I want to get into like the nitty gritty of the numbers of it. How much do you charge for a Model 3 or Model Y tint today? Of course, for my viewers.
Okay, so
the dentist deal.
So, pretty much with your clients, I always offer an additional percentage off. And it just kind of comes down to what promos we're running at that time. You know, the last 2 years, inflation was crazy. So we were forced to push the price up higher. And we actually got a price increase on our material just again in January. And I fought for it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, the market is not what it was before.
Right.
Like, there's no way you're telling me that your material cost is, up higher because there's too much demand. Like, there's no way, dude, because when you're in business, you'll notice how the economy's doing because you'll notice the shift right away.
Right.
And so I noticed the shift since interest rates were being pushed up. I noticed the shift in our consumers. So, why is it that these companies are charging us more for the material? Like, it didn't make sense to me, right? So right now, actively, if you have a Model 3, I believe we're at $660 for like a ceramic film. Right. And the other thing is too, these films themselves, they have a lifetime warranty against any bubbling, peeling, fading. Not only that, but whenever, someone breaks into someone's car and, you get a window bash or anything like that, we're actually very quick to replace it for you. And, sometimes if we have a piece of scrap laying around and it's good enough, we won't even charge you for the material or the labor. I take care of it. Like, there's times where I tell customers, don't even worry about it. And they're like, no, are you sure? Like, and I'm like, dude, like, I got you. Like, just, it's one window. And, doing things like this kind of increases our loyalty to the brand, right? And to the business. But for your clients, especially, like, I always help them out with a 5% or 10%, just depending on what windows they're going with. And, we always take care of your followers as best as we can. Just because, it's such a small community, but they're so loyal too. And, it
expands on it.
Yeah, it expands, but we do give the dentist discount always. And we've been doing it for pretty much since we met you and, we've held true to it. So even if there's price fluctuations, let's say I drop my pricing. Let's say we have summer deals going on and we drop our pricing to $600. I will still give them an additional 5% off just because they're one of your followers.
Love it.
So, we still take care of them no matter if my pricing goes up or down, depending on the market and the material costs. I always, try to take care of them. So, $660 for a Model 3, starting for the 4 doors and back window in one piece. And I believe you asked for me for the Model Y. The Model Y right now, we're at $380.
Okay.
So it'll be $380 and then 5% off of that.
Oh, so the Model Y is cheaper.
It's cheaper. Correct.
Because of that back glass.
Correct. So for
interesting.
For all those Model 3 owners,
the
reason why it's so expensive to tint is because I have to purchase a custom sized roll for the back window. Right? Because it's so freaking massive.
Even in the new Model 3 as well?
New Model 3 as well. It's actually, and you know what? The new Model 3 is actually, it's you run a higher risk of tinting that vehicle, not on the back window anymore. Because before, tinting the back window was like very, it's a huge liability because you can mess up the brake light that's back there,
right?
Or the defroster lines. But now what's coming out, and I just found this out. We were actually doing such a great job that we hadn't had that issue yet. And we've been tinting the Highlands or the Highlander, right?
Yep, Highland, yeah.
I've been tinting that for a while now since it came out. But just recently, I've seen bad reviews, like negative reviews on our competitors. And what happens is, that LED light they put down on the door panel now?
Yeah.
So when you tint the window, the water will seep over and run in there. And it'll ruin it. It'll create a short, and they'll have to replace the entire piece of light. Oh
gosh!
And so,
of course, the shop's not going to cover that.
The shop. Some shops will say, "Oh, well, it wasn't us, and we did everything to take care." You know what I'm saying? But and then I'm not bashing anybody, right? Like I'm a big believer in, hey, hold yourself accountable, hold the shop accountable, and as yourself, you should always be accountable. If something breaks, just do the right thing and fix it, right? But Highlander or the Highland right now, it's a lot of shops are having issues with that. So if anybody goes out there, and any viewers that you have, anybody goes out there and gets their car tinted, ask the shop what they're doing to prevent damage to those LED lights that you have on the door panel, because it's super common. I had a Tesla service guy that I'm really good friends with. He even texted me last week, and he's like, yo, like I've replaced like 4 of these this week. Like you got to let your team know that they got to cover this, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So now it's not more about the back window, but
it's the side doors.
It's the side doors, and you want to make sure that no matter who they take it to, whether it's me or they're a local shop, just make sure they're doing everything to protect it, and ask them, right, what they're doing actively.
Right. What are some of the hard costs that you have? Like, of course, there's rent. How much is that? Plus utilities, employee costs. Is there any like hidden costs that like maybe the viewers that look at like how much, because a lot of people say like, oh, $600 or $500 for tint. That seems kind of high, but like they don't necessarily know this could be hidden costs with running a shop like this. What are some of those hard costs?
Yeah. So, I think everybody can relate. If you live in California, you know that everything is expensive here.
Yeah.
And, we also try to do our best to continue to keep our pricing fair, right? I'm not like, my goal is not to get rich off of window tint, right? Like that's not the premise, because if I was getting rich off of window tinting, then I'd probably be retired by now, right? Like I'd be sitting on a yacht somewhere or whatever. But so pretty much some of the hidden costs that go into it, our rental space is about $5,000 a month. Payroll is going to be about $20,000 a month, and material costs alone, man, I spend about $200,000 a year just on material costs alone. And then, any damages that may come up from installation or anything like that, it's very rare, but we account for those too. Discounts that we do for our clients sometimes, depending if they bring multiple cars, we have discounts for that.
What marketing do you do or spend money on?
Advertising too. We spend a good amount of advertising. I mean, I think in a month right now, we're about $5,000, $6,000 a month, just depending between Instagram, Google, Yelp. Yelp's a little bit. So it's, I'm a big believer, you gotta spend money to make money. Mm-hmm. But, I try to keep the costs down as much as possible. But at the same time, our workmanship and the training that I've provided for my guys, because what makes my business so unique is that I've trained every single installer in-house. I don't have a single installer working for me at this present moment that
came from somewhere else.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I would hire anybody 100%, right? But what I've come across is that my method and my system of tinting windows is cut down to not perfection, but close to perfect.
Right.
And so, because I've trained and I've invested in my team, the material that was wasted, all the labor that was put in to teach these guys, and the investment to get them up to speed, to be able to tint your car without having any issues and give you the best workmanship possible.
Right.
We take into consideration when it comes to those things. And honestly, we're actually priced cheaper than some shops in this area, and we do 100 times better job, and our reputation is 10 times better.
Right.
Like, as you know, I don't have a single 1-star review.
Right.
And I think that speaks volumes, because I have a reputation to live up to, and not only I, but my team. Right. And every day we commit ourselves to living up to that expectation. And I think, you pay up front. It seems like a upfront cost that's very expensive. Mm-hmm. But when you take your car to a team that has the knowledge, the values, the workmanship, and the accountability to kind of tint your car and know that it's in good hands, and that no matter what happens, we will be transparent with you, and we'll say, hey, we didn't like how this window came out, so we swapped it out for you before you picked up your car, right? Because quality control is something that I focus on a lot.
Right.
I won't call a client, or let them know that there's cars ready unless 2 other people have QC'd the window work, right? Or the tint work.
Right.
So, I do extra steps in my business that most other shops won't do.
They just push it out.
Hey, the window tint's on it, let it go. And then what happens? Their mentality is, if there's an issue, the customer can come back. But you know, I don't like that. I don't like that concept. My concept is, hey, my clients have to drop off their car for 3 to 4 hours. I want to make sure I get this done right the first time.
Right.
And if something happens, we hold ourselves accountable to it. If we miss something from the QC process, that means we genuinely didn't catch it.
Right.
And we're going to go above and beyond to have it fixed for you. And that's pretty much what, you know, that's how I run the business. And in essence, that's what you're paying for.
Right.
And I think in the long run, it's better because when you buy a new car, man, it's like your new baby. You've invested 50,000, 60,000, and you want to cheap out on taking it somewhere where the reputation isn't good. They're 4 stars. Maybe they're $50 cheaper than us. Why risk it? You know,
Time.
the cost and benefit is just not there. Not only that, but the way they treat their clients, right? You want to know if you guys want to know how a business runs and what a business is about, look at their bad reviews and then look at the way they reply to them. And that'll show the true character of that business, right? So, you know, I'm a big believer that my pricing is fair. We use the best quality materials. I don't cheap out on any materials I use at the shop. Anything I sell at my store is something that I actively have on my vehicles, and pretty much film and product that I've actually used on my cars, whether it's a lower tier ceramic or a higher tier ceramic. I've used every single product. I've driven with it. I can tell my clients and be transparent. Hey, you know, if you're looking for a lot of heat rejection, you're probably going to want the 3M ceramic,
right?
Not like the basic ceramic, right?
Right.
But I understand that everybody has different budgets, and I also want to be able to help those people that have, you know, the smaller budgets, or sometimes they don't even drive a lot, so they're just like, hey, dude, I just want some tint, maybe keep a little bit of heat out, but you know, my car's in the garage all the time, and I drive maybe once a week because I work hybrid. No worries, man. I have a film for you too.
Yeah.
So, you know, in essence, that's kind of what it comes down to. But that's, you know, in just to kind of re-summarize, like operating costs, that's, you know, the biggest is the materials, the rent, the labor. And not only that, but I also got to pay my guys well. Right. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in cheapening out on labor. These guys work hard every day to improve their skills. And in essence, our clients get, you know, the value because they get to show off their tint and be confident and say, hey, like, check out my tint. I just got it done. The edges are nice and shaved.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring a Tesla in, man, it's going to be hard for you to even peel the film because it's so perfect to every single edge.
Love it.
Right? And that's a craft that a lot of installers haven't mastered yet. Right? So, you know, at the end of the day, you're paying for the craftsmanship, the workmanship, you know, the ability of us to have that knowledge to take care of your car.
Yeah. What's like the average profit margin on a Tesla job? Like, is it 20%, 30%? And is your strategy in business, is it volume based, or is it kind of like taking care and trying to maximize profit, I guess?
So I would say depending, you know, every car kind of varies just because sometimes, man, we put on a tint and we're picky ourselves, man. Like, we want it to be as perfect as possible. And if we're not happy with the job, we'll take it off and we'll cut another piece of film out.
Wow.
So, you know, we run through material like crazy, dude. So some cars we might do 30% net profit. Some other cars we might do 40 net profit. And so, you know what I'm saying? In the long haul, you know, you start to realize that, you know, you are paying a little bit more, but it's for these things that, you know, we go above and beyond to take care of. But net profit, yeah, about 30 to 40, I think, give or take. And then it's not so volume based, you know. We do about maybe 10 to 12 cars. We've done crazy numbers. Sometimes we've done 15, but you know, it depends. Like sometimes it's 2 front windows. Sometimes some people want a windshield done. Sometimes people want a smaller, you know, it's like different projects. But all in all, I would say it's volume based and quality based, man. Yeah. We've mastered it, to be honest. And, you know, I would never push the volume side to and sacrifice my quality because I built my business on quality. So I rather just do less and have a better output in the quality of the product.
Makes sense. So a good portion of my viewers, like 25%, are in California. I've looked at the data, but there's a good portion that is across the nation, US. What are some tips that you could give for someone that's looking into a tint shop to tinting their own vehicle? What are some things they should look out for before selecting a tint shop to go with their tint?
So I would probably say ask questions and ask a lot of them. Because if you ask
What are
a
some
lot
of those
them,
questions?
so look, so I think they should ask, like, I think one of the most important questions is, okay, what brand and model is the ceramic film that you're selling?
Okay.
And how long have you worked with that film? Have you noticed any issues with that film? Right? How much infrared heat rejection is the film actually putting out? Because a lot of clients say, hey, I found a shop that's charging for a ceramic film. They're doing, XYZ, $100, whatever. And the client only knows the name, a ceramic film.
Right.
But you need to ask for performance. You want numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that's a ceramic film, but not all ceramic films are made the same. So ask them, what type of ceramic film is this? What's the performance? Can you demonstrate it for me on a heat lamp so that I can get a better, expectation?
Right.
So, heat lamp, ask for a heat lamp so you can see the performance of every single film that's going to be installed. Ask for the model, the name of the brand of the film, and the model of the type of film that they're using. How long they've worked with that film, and have they ever had any issues with that film? And if so, what are those issues? And what's the life expectancy realistically of that film, right?
Like warranty.
Warranty. And the biggest question is, if something were to happen to my vehicle, would you guys hold yourself accountable? Right?
Yeah. Because
there's shops that will hand cut and they'll mess up your trim. They'll cut your rubber seals around the windows.
Right.
So, more than anything, man, you just want a shop that's going to go ahead and hold themselves accountable. Not only that, ask them, do you guys do a walk around the car before you guys bring it into the shop with me so that we can both check the paint, make sure there's no dents, make sure there's no issues with it. Right. And these are all things that, in my head right now, I'm thinking about, right? If I was a consumer, that's what I would ask. If I was, to shut down my business and go on to a different venture, and then I happen to need my car tinted, these are questions that I would ask to test the shop and see what they're really about. But once you ask these questions, you'll realize the demeanor of the shop owner or the sales rep, whoever it is. And based on how they treat those questions, you'll know whether they'll take care of you or not.
Yeah.
And, but those are the things that I would kind of, be most worried about or ask.
What's the, because we talked about Tesla vehicles, I feel like are pretty finicky with the electronics, and you heard or you saw some vehicles get damaged through the water. What's another case where something really bad happened and you had to come and fix at your shop, or you had to try and diagnose?
I think the 2020 and below Model 3s, when you do the windshield, if there's too much water going into the dash area below, you'll get a bunch of error codes on the screen. And it happened to us once back in like 2020. We had to redo this windshield like 3 times because it just wasn't coming out right. And we use equipment to like pretty much prevent any of the water seeping down there. But we redid it so many times that like a little bit of water created a short down there, and the car threw all these lights. I mean, it looked like Christmas lights, dude. It was like every single thing error. It was like and it was just like error after error after error. And I was freaking out. I was like, Jesus, the power steering went off too. And I was like, oh my goodness, like we're screwed. Like I'm gonna have to pay for a whole brand new Model 3. But at no point was I like, trying to get away with it.
Yeah.
In fact, I was more like, okay, so this is what's happening. Let me reach out to my resources and, get this diagnosed and see what it is. So I have an answer for my client before they pick up the car. And so I reached out to my buddy at Tesla and I told him, hey man, I need you to send someone to come and run a diagnostic on this and see what happened, see if there's water, what's going on. The guy comes, dude, hooks up the Tesla to a computer. He's like, Jesus, what'd you guys do to this thing? This thing has like 100 error codes. And I let him know, hey man, we tinted the windshield. This is what happened. And he said, oh, okay. He's like, I know exactly what it is. He's like, there could have been a short happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much switch out a fuse or something like that. And it should be fine. Or once it dries, it should be okay as well. So he said, we'll let it dry. And if it dries, these error codes should pretty much clear up, right? If it dries and it doesn't kind of reconnect, then we'll just have to swap it out.
Yeah.
And, he told me the price. I think it was going to be like $1,500.
Yeah.
So no problem. I'll keep you posted. If it's not good by tomorrow, we'll do it. And yeah, man, it ended up actually like he reset the codes, and within like the first 2 hours, everything was back to normal.
Yeah.
And it was able to dry, and we were happy. But
that's a pretty cool story, because I feel like a lot of other shops would probably just be like, oh, sorry, and take it to Tesla and get it fixed. But it's really cool to see. And that's probably why you have 5 stars on Yelp, because you're thinking for the customer and trying to get it solved before they come in and before it blows up into a heat case.
Exactly.
How can I proactively try and fix this? But I mean, thanks for jumping on this with me and answering some of the questions. I want to give, the viewers a little bit of an insight onto how a tint shop operates, how much profit it is, and why some of those prices are for what they really are. But do you want to shout anything out before we sign off?
No, just, hey, if you don't come to our shop, just make sure you go to a shop that's reputable. And, I think one of the best key components you could ever figure out about a shop is, does the owner know how to tint? How long has he been in the industry? And does he invest in his employees? Yeah. Right? Because I'm huge on investing. I invest time, I invest materials, and I even invest in training courses. Like, my employees have gone through sales training, customer service training, and I coach them every single day and every single week. And we have also been together out, we've paid for courses on how to be better in our customer service. And so, I'm big on investing in self-development. And if you really want the best job, then find a shop that actually invests in their employees, and that'll tell you more about them. But
I love it.
If they want to come here, then we'll be more than happy to help them out. And we're value based, and I think we'll make the best recommendation possible for every type of client.
I love it. Yeah. And as you guys know on the channel, I recommend OC Tint Solutions a lot. And you hear me say the name Jason a lot. Now you can put a name to the face. And don't forget to ask for the dentist deal when you go see Jason at OC Tint Solution. But thanks for coming on, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.
Thank you, Dennis.